I do want to get you back to some of the big stories that we are covering today and have been over the past several weeks. Now, we did learn here as we cover the latest on the Jeffrey Epstein files that the attorney for Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, has said that she answered all of the DOJ's questions, quote, truthfully, honestly, and to the best of her ability. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche on Friday wrapping up his two-day interview with Maxwell at the federal courthouse over in Tallahassee, Florida. She's currently there serving out a 20-year prison sentence after being convicted of sex trafficking minors. The DOJ interview comes just weeks before Maxwell is expected to testify before lawmakers after the House Oversight Committee issued a subpoena for August 11th. As always, so much to discuss here, so I do want to bring in Dave Aronberg, managing partner at Dave Aronberg Law, who served just a few months ago, up until a few months ago, as state attorney over in Palm Beach County, Florida. Dave, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Great to be with you, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And first off, I did want to ask you overall, because as I mentioned, the DOJ did wrap up that two-day interview with Ghislaine Maxwell. What does that say to you about the future here and the current situation involving those Epstein files?
Josh, it's highly unusual for the #2 person at the Department of Justice to conduct such an interview himself. Remember, Todd Blanche, the #2 person there, was Donald Trump's personal defense lawyer. So that raises questions as to what is the motivation here? Is it to get more information on third parties who are involved with sex trafficking? Or is it to CYA for the boss? That's the big question here. So I would hope that whatever she said would be recorded and it would be vetted by career professionals so that it doesn't get caught up in an intentional game of telephone where only the most exculpatory parts come out in favor of the boss, meaning that it doesn't just get put out there as, well, she just exonerated Donald Trump and that's it, so we're done closing the file. So the public demands answers. They want transparency. And I'm not so sure that having Todd Blanche do a private interview with Ghislaine Maxwell is going to get you there, because both sides want something. Ghislaine Maxwell wants a pardon from President Trump, and President Trump wants complete exoneration from Ghislaine Maxwell. So it doesn't really bode well for the belief in transparency and openness by what's going on so far.
And on that note here, talking about a pardon, I do want to play for you a quick statement that was made by Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney. He was asked about the idea of a pardon, and I want to play this right here.
You know, we're going to take one day at a time. I know that's very cliche, but it's true because things are happening so quickly. We haven't spoken to the president or anybody about a pardon just yet. And you know, listen, the president this morning said he had the power to do so. We hope he exercises that power in the right and just way.
All right, so what do you make of that statement there from Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney, essentially saying they haven't asked, quote unquote, just yet?
You know, I know that lawyer, that's David Marcus. He's a good lawyer, well-respected, and a good guy, but he's advocating for his client. And he knows that President Trump is transactional and that Ghislaine Maxwell has a chance, believe it or not, to get a pardon from President Trump, perhaps on Trump's way out of office, because it would be so controversial. But the seeds are already being planted. You saw that statement he just made, plus President Trump is already at least talking about it. This is something that would never even been considered as of a few weeks ago, but now the administration is desperate to move on. And one way to move on beyond this is for Ghislaine Maxwell to come clean and to exonerate President Trump. Now, look, I don't believe that Trump was involved with any child sex trafficking. I don't believe that he's committed any crimes here, but he's sure acting guilty in the way it seems like there is some sort of cover up here. I mean, instead of being transparent, now they're talking about pardons. This woman is the devil's accomplice. This woman is a convicted human trafficker. Not only did she traffic in young girls, she participated in the sexual assaults. There is no world that we live in that she deserves a pardon for activities. She is not a victim. She is a vile perpetrator who deserves the sentence she got, and she should stay in prison.
As far as the House Oversight Committee issuing that subpoena just days ago, saying that she could testify there next month, what exactly are they hoping to hear from her? But on that same note, should the American public be able to watch all of that testimony before the House Oversight Committee?
I think more transparency is better. Now you have to protect the identities of victims. That's important. Also, there are issues when you're talking about unindicted co-conspirators. If someone is not charged with a crime, you want to be careful because you could ruin that person's reputation forever. Now, this is the tightrope you need to walk here, because there are some protective orders apparently in place, or some court orders apparently in place that can protect the identity of those mentioned in the files. And just because you're mentioned in the files doesn't mean you participated in the crimes. Donald Trump is mentioned in the files, doesn't mean he participated in the crimes. But as long as there are protections in place where the public is notified, I believe that these individuals are not necessarily guilty of a crime, that it's specific to what they are being accused of, then I think it should be out there in the public. It should be out there in the public who's in the black book versus who is being alleged to be a John, who the young girls are trafficked to. That's what the public wants to know. They want to know who is on the Epstein client list. And since there is no client list, they want to know who's in the Epstein files. So that's the big question. And that's what I think Congress wants to come out. Who is in the Epstein files and for what reason?
And I do want to pop this up on your screen as we continue to get folks' kind of opinions out there who are watching us right now. We have this question that we're posing to you at home. Do you believe the Epstein files should be released? Do you want to see them? All you have to do is scan that QR code top right-hand side of your screen, or do it the old school way. Just go to livenowfox.com/connect to cast your vote here. And the big question also, Dave, is going to be, is the grand jury testimony, if it is released, really enough to satisfy the public, or is that just going to be kind of the start of it?
It would just be the start of it, Josh. There's not much of a clamoring for the release of the redacted grand jury materials because they're not going to show the third parties who are allegedly involved with Jeffrey Epstein. Those grand jury materials were used in Jeffrey Epstein's indictment in New York. They are not going to show the third parties who are sitting out there who allegedly were getting young girls trafficked to them. And so this is going to be a matter that will not satisfy anyone. Now, if they do get the redacted grand jury transcripts, it could help a little bit, but there's even a question whether they're going to get those, because under grand jury secrecy laws, the judges are not supposed to release these transcripts. So I think what the Trump administration is doing is they know they're going to lose in court most likely. And so this is a way for them to hopefully placate the base while at the same time they are having the opportunity to blame judges. So when they get rejected by the judges, they can win by losing. They can point the finger at these unelected judges in the black robes and blame them. It's a winning strategy for Trump, but will it win this time? I don't know.
And we're keeping this up on your screen here because we do have this poll that we're asking you at home. Do you believe the Epstein files should be released? Not really much of a surprise based on what we've heard from the public here in the past few weeks, but 90% of you at home voting yes, and about 11% right now saying no. So obviously yes is in the lead. As of right now, since we popped it up, we do have more than 400 people that have casted your vote. So again, just kind of scan that QR code top right-hand side of your screen, or go to livenowfox.com/connect. My last question for you, Dave, here before I let you go. What are you going to be watching for in the coming weeks as all of this does continue to unfold?
I don't think the Epstein files are going to be released in total, but I do think you'll see a drip drip, as we already have seen with that birthday card that came out. I think that you'll see little pieces, and perhaps they'll be intentionally released by the Trump administration, and there'll be things that are favorable to them. As I said, I don't believe that just being affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein, like Donald Trump was, means that he committed any crimes. But the public needs to have an understanding. They need to have transparency. They need to have more information, because Trump's campaign was based on things like releasing the Epstein files. And the public has been fed a steady diet that there is something really salacious in there. There's something that the public needs to see. And you just can't tell the public then, well, nothing to see here, change my mind, you're not going to see it, because it's not the crime, it's the cover-up that gets you in trouble. We've learned that from history.
All right, Dave Aronberg, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here and break down all of the latest. Anything else you want to add about any of this here before I let you go?
No, Josh, I think this is the topic of conversation around the country right now more than any other issue. And I think it is because that this topic has been pushed out there by Trump and his people, the Dan Bonginos on his podcast, the Kash Patels, and now those individuals are in power. So in a sense, as Shakespeare would say, they're hoist by their own petard. They're the ones who fed the beast, and now the monster is turning on them. The conspiracy theorists out there are turning on them. I think that you can alleviate a lot of this stuff by just putting out the files. I think at this point, it may be your only option.
All right, Dave Aronberg, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and help break it all down. We appreciate it as always.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And I do want to pop this up on your screen once again as we are asking you at home, do you believe the Epstein files should be released? All you have to do is scan that QR code top right-hand side of your screen or go to livenowfox.com/connect. As of right now, 84% of you who have voted say yes, 16% say no. We'll ask you again a bit later on today, and we'll bring you those results as we always do here on Live Now from Fox.